Imperial Fists, in my opinion, are quite underrated. The most popular Space Marine chapters being the Blood Angels, Ultramarines, and Black Templars. The reason why I think the Imperial Fists deserve more love is that they have a distinct personality both for the Marines and the Primarch himself, Rogal Dorn. As the Lexicanum states, Rogal Dorn, also known as the Praetorian of Terra, was the Primarch of the Imperial Fist Space Marine Legion. He was one of the 20 Primarchs created by the Emperor in the earliest days of the Imperium, just after the end of the Age of Strife. Dorn, like the other Primarchs, was randomly transported across the galaxy by the gods of chaos, and placed on a faraway world in an attempt to prevent the coming age of the Imperium. Commonly dressed in armour of burnished copper and gold, Dorn also wore a red velvet cloak and unfurled eagle wing motif. It was heavily present on most parts of his gear, most notably on a decorative section of his armour that rose above his shoulders. He had a stern and naturally unsmiling face, topped with an unruly shock of short, bone white hair. Dorn himself was fiercely loyal to the Emperor, and never once sought any favour from him. He exemplified the truth and could never tell a lie, even if it would have aided his cause. Because of this, Dorn's statue stands as one of the four on Macragge, next to that of Rebute Gilliman, Primarch of the Ultramarines. Dorn commanded his legion and expeditionary fleets with peerless devotion and military genius. It was said that he possessed perhaps the finest military mind of the Primarchs. As ordered and disciplined as Rebute Gilliman's and courageous as Lionel Johnson's, but still inclined to the flashes of zeal and inspiration which marked the successes of Leman Russ and Jagatai Khan. Indeed, the War Master had said that esteemed Dorn and the Imperial Fists so highly that he reckoned if the Fists, noted masters of defence, were to hold the fortress against him and his Luna Wolves, the resultant conflict would result in a never-ending stalemate. Despite his fierce reputation as a general, Dorn had compassion for civilization populations and demonstrated during his clash with Kurz in the Chernot War and with Ferrus Manus in the Astrani campaign. In the aftermath of the Ullanor Crusade, Dorn and the entire Imperial Fist Legion were recalled to Terra to take up guard stations there as the Emperor worked on his new project. Before the Imperial Fist could arrive at Terra in full complement, the events of the Horus Heresy overtook them, stranded for some considerable time by severe warp storms. The Imperial Fist fleet eventually discovered the badly damaged Death Guard frigate Eisenstein, and so learned of Horus's betrayal. At first, unwilling to believe it, Rogal Dorn was eventually convinced by several members of the Eisenstein survivors, notably Captain Nathaniel Gallo. And Remembrancer, that is an awful word, Mercedy Liton, that his brother Horus was staging a full-scale rebellion. Dorn therefore dispatched the bulk of his legion to the Istvan III system on a war footing. He himself returned to Terra with his veteran companies to bring words of the events personally. The Iron Cage was the greatest battle fought between the Imperial Fist legions of Space Marines and their ancient rivals, the Chaos Space Marines of the Iron Warriors Traitor Legion. On the world of Sebastius IV in the early 31st millennium, the battle was fought during the years immediately following the end of the Horus Heresy. The Imperial Fist assaulted the planet after its defense had already been prepared by the Iron Warriors, who had nicknamed their network of fortresses at the defensive positions as the Eternal Fortress. Dorn vowed he would dig Perdrabo out of this hole and bring him back to Terra in an iron cage. The Imperial Fist fell into the trap and suffered heavy casualties before the Iron Warriors were driven off planet only due to the interventions of the Ultramarines Legion. The battle should have favoured the Traitors, but the Imperial Fist refused to die. When their ammunition ran out, they had fought hand to hand, and the trenches of the Eternal Fortress ran with blood. Had Rebute Gulliman and his Ultramarines Legion not intervened, the two legions would have likely annihilated each other, and to this day their mutual hatred persists. The experience of the Iron Cage proved painful for the Imperial Fist, but was also important in forging the modern character of the Imperial Fist and their successor chapters. So then, as it stands, Rogal Dorn is currently missing, and the only evidence of him possibly being dead was that his hand was found, which I think was because he put it in his magical pain glove and he lost it. But I do actually think Rogal Dorn is still alive. Now, this is literally just a tidbit of what the Imperial Fists have for lore, and I, just as a general meme, they're like they're blank and stubborn, and I just love it. But they're also totally badasses, and I don't know where the quote was from, but essentially they were, if any Space Marine chapter could be the ideal Space Marine chapter, it would be the Imperial Fists. Rules wise, as their chapter tactic stands, if you roll a hit roll of 6, then it generates another wound if it's a bolt gun. Now, like, that's pretty good, and essentially today what I'm going to do is help you build an Imperial Fist army that will maximize your performance and maximize annoyance of your opponent. So these are all the available products for the Imperial Fists. So this one just came out here. So the Imperial Fists Bastion Strike Force. So that just came out for Christmas itself. Then you just have the likes of Torgard on. You have your Primarch Intercessors, which you then use the upgrades for. So it's got the Graphis shoulder pads, the Intercessor shoulder pads. You've got these little tidbits that you probably won't use, and then you have the Power Fist and stuff. So it's more just like cosmetic at that point, but it still works for decorating the faction as a whole. So as of now, the Imperial Fists don't have an updated codex, so it's just the Codex Space Marines for now, and not the the Imperial Fist like sample book that we had back in 8th edition. So it is just still this one just for now. So just like any other Space Marine chapter, you can use any Space Marine models you want, but the purpose of this video is choosing which exactly Space Marine models to be using, so you can maximize the efficiency of the army itself. So with my current list of Imperial Fists, I have a squad of these. They're 210 points for Centurion Devastators, and the reason why they're actually a good choice is because, like I said, if you have hit rolls of 6s, then you get a generate an auto hit, so you get extra hits. And the best thing is, these guys have 2 heavy bolters, and they also have bolters in their chest. So essentially, if you have 3 of these, or perhaps even 6, you are bolting and dishing out so many rounds. And just essentially, if you do the math, it's insane. It's like having the 30 intercessors, all with auto bolt rifles. That at 120 shots. That was my old Imperial Fists army, where I made like a grey Space Marine chapter with gold trim. I called them the Omegon Fists. They had the Ultramarine symbol on them. I don't know why I did that, but it was pretty cool having that many Space Marines. So I completely dished them out, and my mate was not happy because I know the auto bolt rifle is like strength 4, AP 0, damage 1, but at that point, if you're doing 120 shots, you're best off just going with quantity over quality of shots, because statistically speaking, that is far more superior than having way less shots, 3 times less shots, and just having it as AP -1. Same stands with the Devastator squad, still totally viable in 9th edition, near 10th edition. If you have 4 guys with heavy bolters and, just a regular sergeant, then stick them in a drop pod, and then also have 5 tactical marines, or 5 Devastator marines with them. So when your enemy's shooting at you, you're obviously going to take the regular tactical marines out of that squad, and so your enemy has to get through 10 wounds of infantry in order to start dinking away at your tactical squad, which are dishing out the same rules with the heavy bolters, generating extra hits on 6s. So with captains and lieutenants being beside that amount of infantry that can have extra hits, if you can reroll your hit rolls of 1 and wound rolls of 1, again, statistics wise, you are going to hit these targets. The AP of the weaponry may not be high, nor the damage, but having damage 1 in that quantity, against Death Guard or whatever, because I know they reduce me, so it is just perfect, and you can have stuff on the sidelines like Intercessor with Stalker bolt rifles doing 2 damage a shot, and again, if you're rolling 6s, you're doing extra shots, so it is a totally viable army, and I think it's so underrated, as an army. And people should be more aware how busted they can be if you know, build the right army for these guys. Also good with the Imperial Fists is the heavy intercessors. They are really expensive. Don't get me wrong, I did buy some just before Christmas, and €55 is not worth the price of heavy intercessors. It is stupid how expensive they are, honestly, and I'm not even a fan of the poses as well. There's like, I say there's about 2 good poses in the kit, because they are, you know, more or less mono pose. You can't pose them too much. You know, you can have the arms pointing up or down, or you can have your sergeant looking left or right. That is pretty much the extent of the, you know, heavy intercessors themselves. Redemptive Dreadnought must have, like, for anti-tank, have the macro, you know, plasma yoke, but you know, having this one, here we go, what's that? Basically, I'm just going to call it the assault cannon. It's the same thing. Having that, if you have 3 of these Redemptive Dreadnoughts and you're rolling 6s, you are cutting through infantry no problem. And so even if you just want to have 2 of them, and then having 1 anti-tank as a safe bet, you know, you are flying at this point, building the army. Okay, Sam. So 3, 2, 1. So as far as tanks go, I'm not sure if they're totally viable. So with tanks, I have a Repulsor Executioner. Whereabouts is it? And it's totally useless. It's such a point sink. You know, obviously, if you want to carry your troops, you know, you can use a Land Raider, but you can't use a Land Raider with your intercessors. It have to be a tactical squad. Tactical squad is viable, kind of, because, you know, you don't have to pay for weapon options now for firstborns, which is great. Aggressors, I'm not sure if they're great yet. I know they came up and then went back down. Terminators or Cataphractite Terminators, good for, you know, your melee and stuff. I do recommend a Relic Contended Dreadnought with 2 Volkite Culverins, because you're just dishing out mortal wounds at that point. So they are actually a really good bet for the army. Not too expensive. I'm pretty sure it's like just under 200 points. It is 8 wounds. You've got your invulnerable save for it as well. So it definitely, because the new plastic kit coming out for the Contemptor, go for it. Honestly, go for it. So looking back now, if you wanted to customize, I repeat, if you wanted to customize your Dreadnought, this chassis is no longer available, and I mean for the arms and legs. The torso will be available separately, unfortunately, but these are all the options. So while you might not be able to use all of these for 40k, okay, so I actually have this and I put them on my Contemptors, but you could just use it as autocannon anyway, which is still busted. Storm shields, you can use that. You can have storm shields, and no, you couldn't use that. Actually, you couldn't use that. But yeah, I use this as just a Space Marine captain. You can have this as Captain and Terminator armor. Rogal Dorn, my plans are to actually get Rogal Dorn and proxy him as Rebuke Guilliman. Just because I really want to use Rebuke Guilliman in my army, like rules wise. You've got all these upgrade heads, got the shoulder pads, but that's doesn't really matter. You can just have them into the thing just for visuals. And I mean, if you wanna, if you wanna add some Titans into your army, you can, boys. You'll be getting mad respect from me, so you will. But essentially, that covers what I've wanted to say on the Imperial Fists as a faction as a whole. I think they're a very interesting faction, and I certainly do want to do more videos on the subject, just because I'm just waiting for more stuff, you know, with the Arcs of Omen happening at the moment, you know. So apparently there's meant to be a Loyalist Primarch coming back, so that is what exactly I'm hoping for it to happen. So I will keep you updated. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you very much. Bye bye.